testimony includes information from this valet who saw it all. What did you learn from your reporting about what President Trump, his conversations with Mike Pence? Luke, this new testimony includes information from this valet who saw it all. What did you learn from your reporting about what President Trump, his conversations with Mike Pence?
Right. This is the first time we're hearing firsthand testimony from this valet. Now, the valet was with Trump almost all day on January 6th. And what he says he saw and heard was first in the morning, a phone call between Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Now, there's been a lot of reporting on this phone call. What the valet said is a little bit different from what others have said. He said that he told him in no uncertain terms that his political career would be over if he did not go along with the plans to overturn the election. As you know, Pence was resisting the effort to decertify the election. And in fact, Trump turned out to be right. Mike Pence's career in Republican politics was over after he did not bend to Trump's will. The other big piece of information that stands out to me is that Donald Trump was passed a note after one of the rioters was shot in the Capitol, and was made clear that this person had been shot, this woman had been shot in the chest. And the valet says that he offered no reaction upon learning that. He kept sitting in the chair watching the violence unfurl on TV.
A non-reaction at the death of Ashley Babbitt. A non-reaction. Was that his general attitude during much of this period, according to the valet?
Yeah, the valet does say at one point that Donald Trump appeared concerned about the violence and said that he should call Mark Milley or Nancy Pelosi. But the testimony we have is that President Trump at the time never did that. Mark Milley testified that he received no call from President Trump at all that day. So even if he did say that, he really took no action about it. And then at the end of the day, after all the violence had happened, after 150 police officers were injured, the thing that Donald Trump says to the valet when they're one-on-one is that Mike Pence really let him down. So that was really what was still on his mind, was still his disappointment and his anger at his own vice president for not helping him overturn the election, and not what was not on his mind was the riot and the violence that had just happened.
So it's interesting. The valet testifies that toward the beginning of the day, he told Mike Pence it would be the end of his political career. At the end of the day, Mike Pence let him down.
Yes, that's exactly right. Now, there's a couple other things I would like to point out. The valet also talks about how Trump was tearing up documents, that almost every document that he got, he would tear it up almost immediately, whether that was a picture, whether that was a written document, whether that was a newspaper article, he would read it and destroy it. And I think that could be useful information that prosecutors in the documents case in Florida might want to take a look at. Obviously, his document retention policy and practices are at issue there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of this testimony can be used in 2 federal cases against Donald Trump. Where is this information that you're getting coming from, Luke?
Right. Well, so this is an interview that the January 6th committee did with the valet back in 2022, but it was sent to the White House for review and redaction. And if you'll recall, the January 6th committee shut down shortly after doing this. So this has been sitting over at the White House, in the White House counsel's office, and House Republicans who have been investigating the January 6th committee have been going back and trying to get these transcripts from the White House and then release them once they get them. So this came from the House Republican investigation. Now, they think there are some things in here that are good for Donald Trump, or at least less bad than what's known about Donald Trump. But there's also, they acknowledge, some very unflattering information about Donald Trump's behavior on January 6th.
Yeah, it's all very revealing and good to see. Luke Broadwater, thank you very much for sharing your reporting with us.
Thank you.
All right, now keeping them honest, just 4 days from now, the man who built his empire on fantasy will have to face facts about what it's really worth. 4 days from now, New York Attorney General Letitia James gets to start collecting the nearly $500 million judgment Donald Trump now says he cannot pay. And even as he has searched and failed to find a bonding company to put up the money for him, the Attorney General has been preparing to seize his assets. For starters, here, his mansion, Seven Springs in Westchester County, just north of New York City. He also has a golf club there. Today, we learned that the AG's lawyers have filed paperwork registering the judgment in Westchester, the first step needed before taking property or putting a lien on it. The judgment is already on record in New York City, making all of his properties here vulnerable to seizure. We also learned that the former president is getting antsy, saying this about having to actually get a bond or sell properties to raise it. He goes, "That is crazy," he writes. Also, putting up money before an appeal is very expensive, all caps. Now, just pause for a minute to consider that according to a new FEC filing, his Save America PAC spent nearly $5.6 million on legal fees last month alone. That's about $200,000 a day, mostly from small donors. So yeah, to use his words, it is very expensive. Whether expensive for him personally is another question. In any case, Trump goes on, the crooked judge who has already been overturned 4 times on this case, a record, fully understands this. He gave us a demand which he knows is impossible to do. Impossible? Really?